Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode. This is episode 4 of Chatar Patar with Anubhav. Now, typically for such episodes, I have a one-on-one conversation, but today we have the very dynamic duo of Manix Narayanan and Sohani Bedi from the Ultimate Players Association of India. Guys, welcome to the front stage and welcome to Chatar Patar with Anubhav.
Thank you, Anubhav. Very excited to be here.
Thanks,
Sohani
Anubhav.
is just coming in. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's good to be speaking again. I'll just give viewers some context. So I think we had a conversation about 3 weeks back, three and a half weeks back. We had a long drawn out conversation, 1.5 hours, spoke about a lot of topics, a lot of them pertaining to Ultimate Frisbee, the Ultimate Players Association of India. So we'll try making this conversation slightly different, hit certain notes and topics that we haven't quite spoken about in the past, such that it's more interesting for not just the viewers, but for us as well. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we'll start high level. Let's just establish the foundation, establish the base. So talk to us more about the Ultimate Players Association of India and everything that it stands for.
Sohani.
No, I think Manix, you should take that one.
Okay. So Ultimate Players Association is basically the national federation for the sport of Ultimate Frisbee. It's basically similar to AIFF for football, and it's essentially what it does is it regulates and promotes the sport in India. The sport is very relatively new compared to other sports in the world. It's only 50 years old, and in India it's been less than a decade old. And so the organization, the UPAI, which again, as I said, the National Fed, has been around since 2013. So very young organization, and we are trying to spread the sport in every state. Currently, we are in about 15 states. We are very excited that this sport is generating some buzz, and we are happy to be here on One Place Sports. Thank you for having us.
Brilliant, Manix. Apart from this very impressive answer of yours, I must say that's something I just observed. You've got a very new and impressive look as well. I think you were clean shaven for the last chat that we had, and you have like a nice stubble going for you now.
Yeah, all thanks to the lockdown.
Was that deliberate? Was that on purpose?
Well, last time around you told me you liked this look, so I thought, okay, I have to impress Anubhav this time a little bit more. So, yeah.
No, I was mightily impressed even the last time. So there's a limit to how much you can impress me. You've already hit that limit. And Sohani, I'll come to you now, Sohani. You, of course, have had a very interesting journey in terms of what you were doing initially. I know you've been involved in football as well as a sport, playing that sport at a professional or semi-professional level. Now, of course, captaining the ultimate side of India. So talk to us more about how these different pieces of the puzzle line up together.
Yeah, so just to draw the entire story, I started playing football in about 2006-7. I think when I was in school, I played a couple of nationals. I represented the Delhi state. And then I think as college was kind of getting over, there was a very natural shift that happened towards Ultimate Frisbee because in general, I think I like playing sports competitively, and but I still don't want to make it a career because just somehow I think the joy of playing goes away for me. So so I think once college was kind of getting over, it was getting really difficult to have a full-fledged career along with playing football competitively because it's just how the sport is structured in the country. You have camps where you have to be out for a month, and then you have practices during the weekdays from in the afternoon. So it's not possible to have another career and then also play football competitively. And I think it's just at that moment, I think while I was getting out of college, Ultimate Frisbee kind of came into my life. I was introduced to the sport, and then I think from there it was just a very organic and natural shift because I think I was getting an opportunity to play the sport at competitively and at a high level, but at the same time I could have a full-fledged career. And I think that's primarily because of how the sport is structured even globally. Right, it allows you to have that space to play it competitively while you have a career, just because you have tournaments during the weekend and at the domestic stage, and even at the international stage is probably a week. So it's very easily manageable, and I think that was the reason why this shift kind of happened in a very organic manner. And I think things that are very important to me in sports, which is high intensity, good like sportsmanship, and something that just gives you an adrenaline kick. I think I just got all of it
Absolutely.
out of Ultimate Frisbee, and I think that was just how everything kind of all the pieces kind of came together.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'm being really observant today for some reason. Of course, I observed Manik's beautiful, beautiful, pristine beard. Something I've observed in your background, Sohani, you seem to have like a frisbee on the wall. I think it has your
Yeah,
name, Sohani, on it. Is that
yeah.
symbolic of something? What's the significance of it?
I think this frisbee. I was just playing a tournament, which is Goa Sixes, and sorry, I think it was Goa Hat, and they do an introductory game in which they get kind of like the all stars of the country to play one match, and then they give you a disc to represent it. So I have like two stars here, so that represent that I've been like an all star twice. And I was given this disc, so it's just I like to put it in my room.
10 on 10 for humble brag, Sohani. Uh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So are you trying to tell me that if I play an exotic sport like Ultimate Frisbee, I actually get to travel to exotic destinations like Goa?
Yes, definitely. But I think you get to travel like all over the country because like we have nationals and we have sectionals, and like different cities host that. So I think because of Ultimate Frisbee, I've ended up traveling to Goa, Ahmedabad. Chennai was like my second home for the longest time because of my national team training is where we used to have our training camps, and Bangalore. So I think it keeps you in a close knit community with players that you keep getting to meet often, and then you just I think you all meet at different places to compete with each other.
Brilliant. And you spoke about the close knit community. You read my mind, because that's exactly the next topic that I wanted to talk to you about. Based on, say, the pictures that I've seen on social media, based upon my observations after going through your website, the one thing that I can clearly tell is that it is a very, very tightly knit community. Of course, every organization says that its culture is tightly knit and is one of unity. But for you guys, I think you guys actually practice what you preach, and you guys do as you say as well, as opposed to not practicing what you preach. So talk to us more about this culture that you have of unity, of this tight knittedness that you have in the community.
Yeah, I think some of it comes from few principles of the sport, right? Like the sport follows this entire aspect of spirit of the game, and then there's certain aspects about you have to have a positive attitude, and I agree those are like on field things about like how you communicate, etc. And you can probably go deeper into that a little later. But I think just like respect, culture, and these and I think even like something like psychological safety, wherein even if you have an issue, you can just talk about it with like your teammates. I think that's something that this sport kind of holds in really high regard, and that's just not the national team that I've kind of been a part of. Like literally all the teams, even my club team, Stray Dogs and Sweaters, like any team that I've kind of been a part of. I think communication, respecting each other. Kind of really like respectfully resolving issues and also like voicing out issues. I think all these things form a very important aspect of like a team, and I do see it prevalent in almost every aspect of Ultimate Frisbee, and I think that's probably what makes this community a very healthy and a close knit community. And no, Manik, if there's anything that you'd like to add to this.
Just one example maybe is actually it's part of the rules internationally or otherwise. Every match has to end with what is known as a spirit circle. So the spirit circle is basically where during the match you would have developed some negative energies while playing an opponent at a really high intensity. And then during the spirit circle, both teams come together and sit together and talk about the match. So both teams will give each other feedback, positive, and then room for improvement. And this is a standard that's international across the world. Over 90 plus countries, they all do this. And so this aspect, what we call as the spirit circle, is super critical. It sounds kind of hippie-ish, but the fact is it works and it makes great friends, even though you've just lost to them or you've just beat them up on the field. But off the field, you become friends, and that adds to the close-knittedness, as you mentioned, Anubhav.
That's absolutely brilliant. And Manix, being a player come someone who belongs to the administration, you have a very unique view. In many ways, you have like an insider's view, and you can actually look at what's happening from the outside as well. So, talk to me more about Ultimate Frisbee in India, perhaps in different cities. Where is it blossoming the most? And then we can actually move to questions that are coming in from the viewers as well.
Sweet, sure. Um, So I think the big hotspots traditionally for Ultimate Frisbee have been Ahmedabad and Chennai, where they started in India. But of late, like Surat, Delhi, Bangalore have been like the new spots for Ultimate Frisbee. There's lots and lots of young people taking to the sport. Bangalore especially has the maximum concentration of Ultimate Frisbee players in urban India. However, there's also, we need to point out just in terms of sheer numbers, the state of Assam has the maximum number of players, and that's actually in the rural setting. That's run by a few NGOs, over 5 NGOs, I think, 5 NGOs have run Ultimate Frisbee programs into their regular programming. And that has generated lots and lots of young people in schools taking to Ultimate Frisbee, and they've gotten pretty good at it. As you know, Assam, like, the sporting culture is pretty hardcore there. And so every village pretty much has a football field. And so that usually the one football field, you can play 2 Ultimate Frisbee games. So therefore, that sport is just spread far and wide in West Assam. And so that would be a place to look out for in the future. Definitely all the usual regular metros, Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, Mumbai, Chennai, all of them are actually pretty good in terms of the number of club teams, the number of opportunities to play.
Brilliant. And a question related to what you just mentioned. You talked about Bombay, right? So a viewer is asking a question: where do we play our Ultimate Frisbee in Mumbai?
Suhani?
Yeah, I think they play Ultimate Frisbee at the Juhu Beach, and yeah, I think that's where they play. But they also have few places sometimes when they play on grass. So we can definitely get you in touch with people who are a part of Mumbai Ultimate to really help you become a part of their practices. But their main locations are usually the Juhu Beach.
Brilliant, brilliant. And let's talk a bit about the fitness levels that are required for the sport. Of course, it's a fairly high intensity sport. So, Hani, I know you mentioned that one of the reasons why you actually got into the sport was because you like the high intensity aspect of it, similar to what you experienced when you were playing football. So, how can, if say there's a rookie or an amateur starting out, right? How can they actually get themselves in shape such that they're ready for the Ultimate Frisbee Challenge? What does the progression look like?
So I would like to take this like slightly different. I don't think it's about how you get into the shape to start playing this sport, but it's more about that you just pick up the disc and you start coming on the field and you will get into shape. There are players and like a community to support you to do really well at this. I really don't think there's a prerequisite per se to like, I think that's a great part about Ultimate Frisbee that's actually open to everybody and everybody's welcome and we played at all levels from very recreational to extremely competitive, and yeah, of course, if it's somebody's goal to become like really fit through Ultimate Frisbee, I'm sure that can also happen. But talking personally as me as a player and like playing this for the national team, I think fitness is a very important aspect of Ultimate Frisbee, and it kind of showed in like our performance also. So there were times when we didn't have a fitness coach, or like fitness and nutrition were not as much as a priority. I mean, I wouldn't say wasn't as much as a priority, but we weren't really like focusing on that. And then like subsequent campaigns, or when we had a dedicated fitness coach and a dedicated nutrition coach, you could significantly see the difference in like our performance, and even like ultimately what we ended up like getting a medal for the country. I think it really plays a lot of aspect. And I think what one thing I really liked about what our fitness coach mentioned.
Is Sohani frozen?
A little bit, I think. Yeah.
Right.
But
Talking about fitness and
I
fitness
think
coaches, Manix. There you go. She's
oh,
back.
sorry,
Okay,
she's
yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I was just talking that I think it's one thing that I would really like recommend players who kind of play ultimate frisbee, and I think something I learned from my fitness coach is to make sure that we give sufficient time to our bodies to recover, and we there's a lot of emphasis that is laid on like so recovery by nutrition, so making sure you're hydrated, you're having this good amount of like nutrition, and second is recovery through stretching and like making sure we're giving our muscles and our body the right amount of like rest and stretching that it needs. I think rest all of it kind of falls like that was one of our key goals moving into the campaign. But I think it all comes with when you just start playing the sport.
Lovely. So,
I
Hani, what you just mentioned, Manix, I'll just mention one point. What you just
Sure.
mentioned is music to my ears. You spoke about rest and recovery. I think then I might be cut out for this sport because for the last 27 years, every day has been a rest day for me. Every day has been rest and recovery. I haven't worked out a single day. So I think I'm ready now after 27 years of rest and recovery.
so
Sorry. Go on, Manix. You're saying something.
I was just going to say, like, one of the things that Suhani mentioned in passing was like, India winning a medal, and that is usually that's a rare statement, right? You don't hear it much, but the fact is that Suhani captained this team last year. We went to Shirahama in Japan, and this was the Asia Oceanic Beach Ultimate Frisbee Championship. So where India came third, we beat Australia for the third place, bringing back a bronze medal, and lost in a very tough match in the semifinals to the host Japan. So that was super exciting. I was there to watch this amazing team go all the way. They were undefeated until they met Japan in really cyclonic conditions. It was really bad weather. And in Ultimate Frisbee, unless there's lightning, you just keep playing. So on that sand with so much wind, and you have to like run pretty hard. Sand is like wet, and it's hard to run even more than usual. This team, what Suhani was talking about, like in terms of endurance and conditioning, they came through. They played hard till the last point, and so the training and the rest and stretching and including nutrition, they had a nutrition coach as well. All of that paid off, and it came back, and they made us proud by getting our first medal at a international competition level, with beating some really good teams. Like these are all established teams playing for a couple of decades, and we've just nuke it on the block. So that was super impressive, watching that team go from training for almost a year and coming through. And what Suhani mentioned earlier on, making Chennai her second home, because like Chennai's beaches were where they trained. So kind of like inspirational story there. The other part that I just quickly wanted to add was about Suhani mentioning about recreational ultimate frisbee. In Mumbai, actually, there is a recreational ultimate frisbee played in those futsal grounds, which are quite numerous. And then that is something that I don't remember where exactly they play, but we'll get that information and post it back here, or at least you can share it with your viewers after. So what that means is that in recreational, in such places, you just come show up. There's like some kind of an entry fee, maybe like 100 rupees or 200 rupees. You pay for the ground and the lights, and then somebody will be there. That's the welcoming nature of the Ultimate Frisbee community. Somebody will be there to sort you out. Like they'll help you with the disc, or they'll show you how to throw, how to play, get started, and then you can like jump into it. And within a week or two, you'll want to come back because you'll get good at it because it's easy to pick up. And then if you want to get really serious and you want to be like a superstar like Suhani, you have to, of course, work very hard and get there, but you can get there. Suhani's been, I think, playing since 2014, 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong, Suhani.
Yeah,
so
right.
now, so that's like, within 5 years, you have the potential to captain the national team. So that's what I would say, that's your pathway if you want to get there. But you could be like me, just chill and play Ultimate Frisbee just for the fun part of it, and have a good time playing it and trying to stay in shape as well. So all kinds of levels are welcome, and I think that's one of the cool things about the sport.
Brilliant, brilliant. And you spoke about Sohani starting. The genesis of her story with Ultimate Frisbee dates back to about 2014, 2015. Let's go back to 2014 and 2015. Here's Mrinalini who's asking us a question to both of you. Manix, Sohani, do you remember the moment you got hooked onto this sport?
Yeah, I think for me it was I just used to throw the disc around with my friends in the park, and I didn't know that there was actually a organized sport that existed around this. And then one of my friends went to London to study, and he figured that there's a sport, so he came back for like his holidays, and he tried to Google, and he found a club that played ultimate frisbee, and then he went there, and he knew I was into sports and I was an athlete, so he told me to like just come and try out a practice. So I just went, and I think it was just the atmosphere which was so enriching, and like I just really got hooked onto it right from my first practice. Like I knew I was going to go back again, and I think I just had such an exhilarating first practice. And I think what I really enjoyed about ultimate frisbee, and I think I keep saying this so many times, is that I could really see somebody playing a sport at a very high competitive and intense level, but at the same time, I couldn't see the sportsmanship or the fairness aspect of it get compromised. And I think that was a really new thing for me coming from football, because, like you play football and it's just about you don't care about anything else. Like you want to draw fouls in football and things like that. But I think that I just it just kind of I got really hooked on to that fact, and I would actually say that my first practice onward I kind of got addicted to the sport. So that's what happened with me back in 2014.
So love at first practice. Manix, go for it.
Yeah, my story is, I mean, yeah, you have to go back quite a long ways. The first time I played Ultimate Frisbee was in 2000. So that's like 2 decades ago. And that was in the US when I used to live there. And I was invited to...
How old are you then, Manix? 6, 7? Because you can't be more than 26 or 27 now.
Thank you, Anubhav. So I'm going to be 47 this year. So I was 26, 27 at that time when I first started playing Ultimate Frisbee, actually. And at that time, I had played football recreationally for my college, not at the same level as Swani for sure, but definitely drew a lot of fouls. So I was, I was that kind of like this mean defender types, and I literally didn't care about, what happens as long as my job is done, like save goals, prevent the ball going past me. And that's what I was used to. And then some of my friends, like I had moved to a new city to work in Michigan in the US. And they had called me over, like, for a get together. It was just like, hey, just come and try out this new sport. And so I went there. It was more like a bonding, getting to know everybody kind of deal. And then like they were playing the sport, and so many of them were so good at it. But at the same time, they weren't like, and I was so bad at it. Like, it's like just hand-eye coordination just didn't work. But everyone was amazingly supportive. Like they just like, hey, don't worry about it. Let me show you how this is done, or this is where you need to go. Everyone was very sweet and nice. And having, like Swami said, having played football, that was like super alien to me. And I was like, this is so weird. And it wasn't love at first session for me, because I was like, this is not a real sport. And I just had to go back there a couple more times. Then I got hooked on, and I was like, okay, these people are for real. They're not like pretending. So then it just like really what do you call it? The real niceness of people came through even on the field, and that was super cool. And so then after that, there was no looking back. I did play football for several years after that. At one point, I just couldn't do both at the same time. Like it was like the mind space was tearing up. So I had to like pick one, and I picked Ultimate Frisbee, and I'm happy for it. So
brilliant. Brilliant, not just from me, but brilliant from one of our viewers as well. Here's Abhi Kalpa saying, let's go, Manix. Hashtag ATC. What does ATC mean, if I may ask? Absolutely terrific and classy.
That's awesome. I thankfully not, but hashtag ATC. ATC is a club team in Bangalore that I play with. And earlier on, Suhani mentioned like the club teams in India and all over the world have quirky and kind of strange names. Like her club team, and I'll let her talk about why it's called what it's called. Her club team in Delhi is called Stray Dogs and Sweaters, and she'll talk about it. This club team in Bangalore is not that quirky a story, but it's still kind of cool. The people who started the founders of this team were originally pilots, and so this is like stands for air traffic control, and like the frisbee, you want to kind of control where it goes. So ATC is that. The second team of the ATC club is called Cleared for Takeoff, and then there's a third team within the same club. It's called Flight Plan Approved. So you understand the trend. So they're all like kind of in this COVID-19 situation, nobody's taking off anywhere. But that's where we are. But Suhani, your story about Stray Dogs.
If you could talk about the origin or the etymology of Stray Dogs.
Yeah, so I think my club team was started off with a couple of expats, I think long time back. We're also kind of in the journey to trace down the history of our club team at this moment. I think it started off in 2008 or 7. And I think it was started by a couple of expats, and they were extremely amused by the fact that in winters, just magically all the stray dogs have sweaters on them, and they had no idea like where does it come from, who puts on them. So they were so amused by it that they just kept the club team's name, Stray Dogs with Sweaters. And then just I think the team, literally I haven't met a single player from that time, but the name kind of stuck.
Lovely. And Suhani, where are you from? Are you in Delhi right now?
Yeah, I'm in Delhi.
Okay, so I have a complaint against stray dogs in Delhi. So I've lived in Calcutta for most of my life, born and brought up in Calcutta. But I had a 1 year stint in Delhi when I was working in Delhi. This was very recently in late 2018, early 2019. And if I had to compare the stray dogs in Calcutta and the stray dogs in Delhi, I would say stray dogs in Calcutta are very meek, they're gentle, they're docile, whereas stray dogs in Delhi are the more aggressive kind. I still remember there was this one time when I was walking back from the gym, and the stray dog comes behind me, right, without giving me any heads up, just stabs his teeth into the back calf of my right leg. And I don't know. I just feel that stray dogs in Delhi are way more aggressive compared to stray dogs in Calcutta. Is that your experience as well?
I haven't experienced anything like that. I really love stray dogs here, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe we can tell you that on the field as to how aggressive we are.
Oh, wow. Great. Lovely. So lots of questions coming in from our viewers, and appeal to you to keep asking us questions. We have time for plenty of them. Here's Aishwarya Jayaraman, who seems to be a history geek. She's asking us, when did the game start in India? She's hearing it for the first time.
Okay. So I think the first Ultimate Frisbee game or where it was played first was in actually Kodaikanal, which is in Tamil Nadu. So there's a Kodaikanal International School, which is pretty famous. There was one of the teachers. He's American. His name is Brian Plumel, and he used to teach at Kodaikanal International School, and he brought the game there, and he kind of started training students there and introducing the sport to people around there, and formed a couple of teams. Then he wanted to take it to the next level, and he started hosting a tournament in Kodaikanal, which is called, even to this day, it's still going on, even though Brian has left the country and he's living in Europe now, teaching in another school. But what he started back in the late 90s, I think 98 is when it was first played. I think at that time there was like in 2001 he started like this Kodai Fly Baba, but it didn't really take off too much. There was a couple of teams that played there. But then since then he left, and then he came back and he continued with that tournament, and it was played for several years. And even now it's being played. So that's where it started originally, Kodaikanal. But coincidentally, due to different sets of people, one NGO in Ahmedabad called Indicore, which brought lots of expats as well who wanted to volunteer in India, brought a program there to teach kids in Ahmedabad, or to kind of like build a bridge between underprivileged kids and kids that are going to like kind of elite schools, and build that nice chemistry between school children. They introduced a project using Ultimate Frisbee. And a couple of people, notably J.D. Patel, who's the founder of the National Federation, the UPAI. He was one of them, and he was an elite ultimate frisbee player from the UK. He left a very high-paying, job with an oil company, moved to India, and did this for a couple of years. And then that's kind of the genesis of ultimate frisbee in Ahmedabad, and kind of organized ultimate frisbee. And they went on to host our first national tournament, I think in I want to say 2008. Okay. At the same time, there was like a bunch of US returned folks who came, who studied in ISB in Hyderabad, Indian School of Business. And they went back to Chennai to work, and they started Chennai Ultimate Frisbee. It was like almost the same time as Ahmedabad started. And so there was a whole bunch of people playing in Chennai. So this is like kind of the first time that Ultimate Frisbee was played in an organized level. And then it's kind of started in maybe the count in 2013 was about 500 to 600 players in the country. Now it's over 10,000. So there's a lot more people now. But compared to the number of people we have, it's still a small number, and we hope some of you will join us even after watching this. Yeah.
Absolutely, definitely onwards and upwards from here on. Here's Sangeeta Manoharan asking us, Sohani, thoughts on playing a mixed gender sport versus single gender?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think I'm still like kind of thinking through it. So I've been playing I was playing single gender football for a really long time, and I've been playing mixed gender since I started playing Ultimate Frisbee. I think at this point of view, I really enjoy playing mixed gender sport. And I think one of the reasons for that is because after a point of time when you're playing mixed gender, especially in terms of pushing yourself, the gender lines kind of blur out for me. I think I know that I know that it's after a point in time it doesn't become about whether you're a woman or you're a man. It's just about like who can get that disc, and I think I really enjoy that. It kind of sometimes destroys stereotypes, and I think that's one of the most fun moments for me when I can like really run down a guy. And like usually people think that guys are kind of more athletically better, and when I can like prove myself and everybody around that that's not the case, it's a very enlightening moment. I think that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy mixed gender. But having said that, I think single gender also has some really interesting aspects to provide for, and especially in the ultimate setting, I think that's one area I'm still kind of exploring. But I think I enjoy mixed gender because one, it helps me like really change my notion of how well I can go athletically. And the second thing, I think mixed gender really pushes every like people out of their comfort zones and out of the gender roles that they're kind of used to being in, right? Any sort of diverse situation always make creates some sort of discomfort, which is very constructive in the longer end. And I think I really kind of enjoy that. I think it pushes us to be more accommodative of different perspectives, and it just, I think it's just like any sort of diversity is always, it adds to innovation and it adds to more perspectives, and I think I really enjoy that. So for me at this moment, I think I really enjoy mixed gender.
Brilliant. And Manix, would love to get your views on this as well.
Sure. So the past, in terms of administration of the sport, in the last decade or so that we've been, working intensely on growing the sport in India, we've primarily pushed for mixed gender, and it's some of it has been deliberate, and the reason for that is like we felt. I'm talking on behalf of a lot of different decision makers. And we felt that mixed gender makes sense in this world of sport where such a thing doesn't exist, right? Like outside of Ultimate Frisbee, there's only a couple of other sports that actually have mixed gender, especially in a team setting where lots of, the both genders come together, and there's obviously all this, what Suhani was mentioning, pushing the envelope to challenge ourselves, look at stereotypes. So we felt that was like a good direction for us to go, especially considering the huge gender disparity that exists in India. And this could be one of the ways that we explore, understand each other better, and set examples to the society at large. Single gender, especially recently, we have kind of introduced that component to our domestic circuit. And where it really helps is we understand. I think everybody understands. Like Suhani is talking about like how sometimes the lines blur between genders in very intense play. Also, Suhani is one of the fastest people in India. That I think she forgot to mention. But the truth is that there are still huge gaps between the two genders on an average scale. Maybe at the national team level, those gender lines do blur, and they play as a unit, and that's why they're so successful, and we're all intensely proud of them too. But at the average level, there is that big gap. Like women players get pushed to the fringe. Women players are not as respected. Women players don't have enough leadership, or don't even touch the disc often, sometimes on the field. So those are existing problems like in real life. So mixed gender mimics that real life, even in Frisbee, where theoretically both genders should be equal. However, single gender gives you a little bit of that solution space, right? It gives you an opportunity for women to play separately, men to play separately. Women will play separately and gain confidence and gain the skill sets that they need to come back and do better in a mixed gender setting. So ideally, we want both men and women to play at the same equal footing on the field. But sometimes to reduce the gender gap, we want to have a little bit of single gender as well to promote that skill development.
And Manix, you mentioned, you very casually mentioned that Suhani is one of the fastest people in India. It's interesting that you actually mentioned that, because I was reading an article the other day which spoke about how Duti Chand, who's currently the fastest woman in India, who's the 100-meter national record holder, is actually putting in double the number of hours that she actually puts in leading up to the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, because she thinks that Suhani is going to give her a run for her money. Is that true, Suhani?
I'll have to talk
Suhani, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel honored is what I want to say.
Lovely. So we're approaching the fag end of this conversation. It's been superb so far. If there are any other questions that viewers have, definitely pose them our way, and I'll be sure to bring them to the front stage. But Manix, you spoke about how the game has, of course, seen a lot of growth in the recent past, right? But there's still work to be done. There's still awareness that has to be spread, right? So in conclusion, your appeal or your message to people who might know a little bit about Ultimate Frisbee, but not too much, or people who might not be aware, like Aishwarya, who mentioned that she's hearing it for the first time. People who might be interested in Ultimate Frisbee, but just don't know too much about it. What message would you like to convey to them?
So the biggest thing that we, as part of the organization that runs Ultimate Frisbee, and Suhani as part of the leader of the players in India, kind of representing them, I think we would both say pretty much the same thing. Ultimate Frisbee is a place where everyone is welcome. Everyone can play. And that's the message we want to say to anybody who's interested, wants to come and learn the sport. We'll welcome you, and we'll treat you so well that you will not go away from us. Okay, so that's one. The other thing from our needs, what we ask people if they want to help us out, would be, we are waiting for recognition by the government of India, and if the Honorable Minister Kiran Rijiju is listening to this at some point, we'd love to get you to help us get recognized. We have submitted our documentation to the ministry, and we're waiting for that. We really are hopeful that this sport will be recognized, because we bring to the table, a spirit of fair play and gender equality, which is I'm sure anybody can appreciate that. And so hopefully that happens at some point. If any of you know the sports minister, please give him a holler and ask him to help us out. The other thing is, of course, we are looking for partners. We have we play in snazzy jerseys. We play with cleats, football boots. We have all kinds of different apparel that if people want to partner with, we're happy to take them on. We're happy to talk business, merchandising with them. Happy to have people come and help our national team. That's always like a challenge to send the national team to World Championships. We send fully funded national teams, and we've been struggling a bit with that in the recent past. And we'd really expect people to say, "Oh, national team for India. They went and won a medal last year. We want them to do better. We are hoping to send a team which gets to a level where we can qualify for the Olympics if it happens in 2028, where Ultimate Frisbee is hopefully going to be introduced." So that's the three messages. Yeah. Suhani, please add to it.
Is there a broadcasting partner slot up for grabs?
We are on it right now.
Brilliant. So, Hani, I want to ask you the same question because I think Manik's answer was very, very comprehensive. I'll ask you a similar question. So, Manik touched upon this briefly. He spoke about the bronze medal that the Indian team won at the Asia Oceanic Championship that was held in China, I believe, right? Not too many people might know about the achievements of the Indian side. We, of course, have a very, very formidable Ultimate Frisbee side. So, can you talk to us a bit more about the accomplishments to date and what the future trajectory looks like for the Indian national team?
I think we started off with our first the first national team, which went through a more formalized process. I mean, we've had a couple even before 2015, but like 2015 and under 23 was kind of the first formalized proper selections, the team that went. And I think the purpose of that campaign was to provide more exposure to our community and to like build leaders so that they could go to various places in the country and kind of spread the sport. And I think from there, it's always been just an upward trajectory. So I think after that, the next campaign that I personally was a part of was in 2017, which was World Beach Championships held in France. And I think that was the first time that we actually did really well as far as our performance is concerned. So we came fifth at a world championship, and I think that really like changed. So I think before France, a lot the perspective in Indian Ultimate was a lot about like development of the sport, and it was a lot about making sure we provide that exposure so that the sport can grow. But I think that was a pivot point in 2017 where we changed our focus more towards really going for the medal, because once we came fifth, we knew that we have we've developed it to a certain extent, and now it's time to like test it. And I think Asia Oceanic Beach and Asia Oceanic Grass Championships, the beach championship was held in Japan and the grass championship was held in China. Both these two campaigns was like a stage to put it to test, and I think we did considerably well. Both the teams won a bronze medal. So even on grass and on beach, we brought a bronze medal home. So that's pretty much been the trajectory till now, and I think we're doing well and like making sure we can keep getting medals back home.
Brilliant. So we'll conclude proceedings on that very positive note that Sohani talked about. I had a conversation with Sohani and Manik's 3.5 weeks back, as I mentioned at the start of the conversation, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. I think this conversation was even more enjoyable, and I think a big contributor to the enjoyment that I derived from this conversation was Manik's very snazzy look.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. The biggest contributor, of course, were the brilliant thoughts and insights that both of you had, and some brilliant questions that came in from viewers who are watching as well. So Manik, Sohani, thank you so much again for joining us on our One Play Sports Network. Certainly enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully we can have many more conversations on this platform.
Definitely. Thank you, Anubhav. Thank you, One Play Sports.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manik. Thank you so much, Sohani. For viewers who are still watching, let me tell you that tomorrow at 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time or 1:30 p.m. Singapore time, we have a live chat with Chetan Sharma. I beg your pardon. It's a live chat with Kirti Azad that we have where we're going to be reminiscing about India's 1983 World Cup triumph. Of course, this is the 37th anniversary of India's 1983 World Cup win. So the month of June until the 25th of June, which is when India clinched the title, will be dedicated and devoted to that historic win. that India got under the belt at Lords beating the West Indies. So do join us for tomorrow's very exclusive live chat with Kirti Azad and Ayaz Memon at 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time on our One Play Sports Networks. Thank you so much for joining us for this live session. It was very enjoyable, and look forward to bringing even more breathtaking content your way in the future. Have a good night. Cheers.